for various shows. And obviously one of the problems, well, my programs are all internet-based programs like News UK, Weather UK, and the other ones that are coming. And obviously the problem there is most of the connections are via Wi-Fi, which is difficult under RISC OS. So I've got a Pi, and I wrote some scripting around it, and a web interface that would be easy to use under NetSurf. So, and I'm going to try it now. It does work, I've been told, so I'll try it now. But you can see this is the interface, so if I close it and reopen it, you can just go to PiFi and it will open the window. It shows you the networks there and the various security options on it. It doesn't support 802.1x. Because I've not written an interface for that, just any of the WPA or WEP. So we'll try the PlusNet wireless.
Stupid question now.
Yeah.
Doesn't PiFi come with an appropriate interface already? Am I being thick? Why do you need something extra?
Because if you have, you boot, well the idea is, because a lot of people have Raspberry Pis,
Yeah.
so you can plug a wireless adapter into it.
Yes.
But you need to show which wireless access point you want to connect to.
And does PiFi not come with the appropriate?
Oh, you mean RISC OS interface?
Yeah.
Yeah, well that's something to be planned, but it was Andrew said he wanted it for the show, and it was like probably about 2 weeks before the show.
Oh, okay.
So I had limited time to look at it, because one of the things was looking at which version of OS to use on it, because I went through about four different operating systems before I eventually settled on using Fedora, largely because the network managers, a lot of the packages on Fedora are much newer than they are on Raspbian and the other ones, so it made my life a lot easier for writing the interface. But yeah, the plan is to write a configure plugin, so there will be, if you're going to boot, you'd be able to configure it from there, because that obviously for RISC OS user, that would be the preferred mechanism. So you're absolutely right about that. But for the moment, it's just a web interface.
I hadn't realised that I didn't pick up that PiFi was sort of a work in progress.
Yeah, it's because my plan is to add a few more features to it. One of the other things that's been suggested is adding USB drives to it and interface to that, because RISC OS struggles with a larger drive, say 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte drives, whereas if you use a network file system such as Omni or Landman 98 to connect to it, you can use a 2-4 terabyte drive, rather than if you plug it straight into RISC OS, you've got the problems of partitioning it and so on and so forth. There's a few other ideas of how to expand it as well, but hopefully we should be able to connect. I'm not typing, that would help.
Write down that password stuff.
Yeah, someone's actually mentioned that they would like to be able to see the password, but and that's not connecting.
You'd unselected it. That's it. Deliberately stay.
So it looks like it's connected, so if we click to return to the main page, you can see there it's connected. And the real test will be to, let's try and go to the real site. There we go. So it's It's not ideal at the moment, but it's on the early version. My plan is I will be rewriting most of it from scratch. One of the things that it can't do at the moment is it can only handle one wireless access point. So if you connect to another point, then it won't remember the previous one. So if I rebooted this the Pi now, it would remember this Wi-Fi point, but if I took it home, it wouldn't remember any of the ones at home.
You've still done better than a lot of faffing around with our wireless bridge.
Yeah, the wireless bridge was, I had quite a few problems with that.
Not a huge success, you've done more in a few minutes.
As I say, most the writing of the interface didn't take too long. It was more choosing the right operating system, which it took quite a while. Because I had an attempt on one, spent about 4 or 5 hours doing it, and then discovered I just wasted my time. And then rinse and repeat that a couple of times. So, but that's basically it working. I've not had any problems. It works with most Wi-Fi adapters. I've got a few here. And you can actually plug multiple in at the same time, which is kind of a bit strange, but I'll plug this one in. At the moment, you can only really use one at a time. It will detect both, as you should see in a minute when this refreshes. Is that plugged in? Hopefully. Maybe not. Maybe today is not my lucky day.
Your screen's not scrolled down, is there something lower down?
No, that's just the connect button. It should come up with device. It should show WLAN 1 when it comes up. Maybe that one didn't. I've got quite a few. So. Yeah. Well, I just randomly picked them up this morning as I was. Last night as I was coming out. If I can see what's. No, but that doesn't seem to be picking up the other one, which is annoying. I'll try and plug in this one. I'm not too confident this will. It's just picked up the. Fortunately, the one I want to connect to, but because it's seen the change of device, it doesn't notice. It doesn't think it's the same connection, so. Which is, as I said, one of the things that was mentioned, that it's a bit. It is still in early stages, 0.02. There again, it's connected. See there, and then we're on the rule page. It does seem to work with most Wi-Fi adapters. When I was testing it earlier, I did have 2 adapters in there, but it looks like it only with this version it only supports 1. But there's not much use for having 2 adapters on there anyway, so So that's PiFi really. You say there's a shutdown icon, there's a shutdown link, and all it does is it just shuts the Pi down. And that's about it for the Pi. Well, PiFi. I don't know whether, because I bought some things at the show, I don't know whether anyone would be quickly interested in me, because I got Impression X, I don't know whether anyone saw that. I've not really played with it much, but it's still, for the 32-bit machines you need to load Emula, because not all the code has been converted. I forget the exact amount that's been converted. But you can see it loads up. Yeah, I was. I remember as a kid, my mother bought Impression Junior, and that was quite expensive at the time. And this is Publisher Plus, I believe. Which is, I forget the exact price at the time when it was originally, but Junior was not cheap, so this would have been...
I think it's 250-ish,
yeah.
All the bits and bobs.
It's less than I thought, but still way more than... Yeah. I've not really had a play with it.
Please don't stress it when I was a kid. Let's don't rub it in.
I like to try and remind myself I'm young when I'm not. But,
it's all relative, mate.
But I intend to do my CV on that. But that's another story.
When I was a kid, computers had vowels.
The other thing I got was Photodesk. Hopefully that's not just crashed my machine. There was again, I've not really had a play with this. Oh, that looks nice. But there's a fix from Arcom for Photodesk to make it a bit more stable. Obviously there's a new RISC OS. The other thing was, obviously there was, where's it gone? Overlord. I don't know whether anyone saw that at the show. It's kind of a game for RISC OS. I'll just I'll quit just to show it doesn't. I don't know whether this will work on there.
Usually it takes a while to catch up.
Ah, yeah, it is. Now, you'll see my amazing skill at this. So, yeah, I'm not particularly good, but it's kind of fun. I've not had much time to play on it, but and using the mouse is not. I'm not very good with the mouse. I'll probably be better with the keyboard. But I keep on forgetting, if you right click it stops it from spinning around, so your head doesn't, you don't get quite so dizzy. Anyway, I won't carry that on. That's good fun. It's nice to see something new on RISC OS. That's a nice bit of fun. And apparently there's more to come.
Which time was that one on? Can you remember?
Hang on. Cheating. Ambiguous contrast.
Right. Yeah.
I'm really terrible with names, but yeah, he's also a bit of a musician as well.
Oh,
so I bought one of his compilation CDs, which is
yeah, I think I read it in the show guide. Yeah.
a mix of Pink Floyd and Depeche Mode.
Don't tell your granddad told you about those.
Yeah, he did, yeah. So I was going to argue with that, but I thought, no, that's... So,
Still catching up.
no, I've got it on, it's gone back to silly resolution,
Oh yeah.
so I don't think it will display it.
No, drop it down. I think it's the 1200 that throws it. Doing 1920 1080.
Yeah.
At 1200 it says. Nope. That's alright.
The other thing obviously now is, if we go to info 5.22, so I decided to put that and stop, I think I'll stop faffing around with using the bleeding edge builds now and breaking my machine every other night. It's not been that bad, but so 5.22 is out, which is the first stable release from Rule for Panda board. I wasn't able to find it on the RISC OS website for the Pi.
Right.
I think you can buy it on SD card. I think that's the kind of cunning ploy,
Yes.
which I can't blame them for. I think that's, you know. So you go to Pi. Yeah, it's still on RC 14. So I think, is there anything else? There's obviously there's updates at the, oh there we go, the bane of my life. There was an update to Organizer, which apparently now can open links into RISC OS on the maps. So they've kind of integrated them both together, which is a nice feature, which I've not had time to look at. Impression X is now on, I believe it's on, it's now on Pling Store, it should be as well, so yeah, there we go. It was, I think it was cheaper at the show, because they were still doing an offer, which gives you, I believe it's a year of updates or 3 updates. I believe.
I think it's 4 updates.
4 updates.
4 updates, and in fact more.
No, there are PiFi's on there, is it?
No, I don't think it is. No. That's about it. Obviously there's Desk Edit, which was released. A few, I think it's, what's it called, 2015? No. Yeah, it's just an editor, it's quite nice, I quite like that. Anyway, that's onto Pi things. So I'll shut that down. Again, you just click shut down, and then I think in the version for the Pi on the Pi 1, it just looks like it times out, but it is actually shutting the Pi down. I've got to remember which of my 5 billion SD cards to use next. Oh, Miss Goss, possible. That's unfortunate. So there we go. This is Pi 2 without keyboard and mouse. So, I mean, the main things with the Pi 2 that you notice is the memory's increased in size from 512 to a gig, which is, I suppose, for RISC OS, not too much of an improvement. The speed is relatively similar to the original Pi. The main benefit I found is the networking seems to be much improved on the Raspberry Pi 2. I did some benchmarking, and on the Panda board actually came out worse at about just a shade under 5 megabytes a second. The Pi came out just slightly over 5 megabytes a second, but the Pi 2, I was quite surprised. It came out at 11 megabytes a second, which is obviously the maximum speed on 100 megabit. So that's quite nice, especially if you're using some kind of NAS share or something like that. That can make a real difference. Plugging a USB into my Panda board when I'm trying to use my Pi is not going to happen. It's not working, that's a bit strange. That's not the one I was after. I should really label these SD cards, but...
Would you want to change the resolution to 1280?
Yeah, I will do it. Good idea. Must be another Panda board image.
Another 3 over here with things on them.
Yeah, they're the they're Pi images.
Oh, no.
I was going to show you the Apple artworks, which I've got on a USB stick, but it's one of the kind of irritating things with the SD cards. That's a RISC OS SD card, but all you can see is the FAT32 disk. And you can see there's the ADFS1. And I'm going to tick it, I'm going to click it, and of course it's greyed out, so the actual data I want to get to is not available, which is slightly irritating.
Can you not dismount and then right click?
Maybe, it said broken directory, but maybe that possibly is, that might be that the image is broken. It's entirely possible. I'll just try. Fantastic. That's top of the class. That's been driving me crazy for quite a while. I never knew you could do that. Because it seemed...
I never found it on the SD card, not on the... Yeah.
Oh, so that's really...
But you dismounted it first.
So, there we go. So I'll load the... So that's reasonably nippy, that. I can't really...
Did you pick up any of those files? I think I sent you some article. Did you pick up any of those before you came here? There's some other artworks files that take longer than your artworks.
No, I didn't know.
Right.
I mean, I've got a few here.
It was still having a picture. Yeah.
think, oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of my favourites.
It appears almost instantly, yeah.
And bear in mind it's loading off very slowly off the SD card. So
Yeah. Now I found some that on even on an A9 home are taking like 20 seconds.
yeah, I mean it's fairly nice, and obviously that's in full anti-alias mode. You can't really for the speed for RISC OS, you can't really knock that. It's it's grand. One of the problems, I wouldn't say it was a problem personally, but one of the things to be aware of, the difference between the Pi and the Pi 2 is backwards compatibility. The Pi 1, is it rotated loads, or the Pi 1 has more backwards compatibility with older programs than the Pi 2. The Pi 2 is pretty much the same as the Panda board. It won't run old applications without either using Angular. Which I think I would agree with Andrew's comments. Our comp, we need to drop the old stuff and move on. Anyway, it might push people to rewrite the older stuff to work with the newer hardware. So that is about. Let's see if I can. So I will have some on the. Where would it be? Videos. I'm trying to find Kino amp and just play the video. I should have put it in some obvious order. You would think. I thought there was something like videos or.
Utilities, maybe.
It's not going to be legacy documents diversions from being random. No. Anyway, it looks like I won't be showing that. Strange. I swear I had it on here. No, that's just.
Did you have some
Oh, there.
clips at the top there?
There we go. Cunningly named Kino just dropped in a zip file on my. Yeah. So that is. Apparently, I need this sample, but. See, it runs the videos pretty well. Obviously, because I've not configured it, oh, there we go. That's what I was after. So it runs in a window, and it's quite surprising how well it handles because things run quite smoothly in the background. So where are we going? Quarter. We now try. So it's now something really slow now. So but it's not bad considering. So things still render at a reasonable rate while it's running. So I think the Pi 2 is definitely a reasonable bit of kit. One of the things, obviously, it still runs off SD card. So I'm not a real big fan of that. But
It's actually micro SD, isn't it?
yeah, it's micro SD. I suppose, yeah, that's one of the other differences. Rather than having one of these things which are a reasonable size, there's these which are really, really easy to lose.
Look like bits of a jigsaw.
Yeah, I mean, I put them in my bag. These are easy to find. The question is that fluff or is it an SD card? I've not lost one yet, but I think that's inevitable.
You can get adapters to adapt a micro SD card to fit in an SD card slot, so what you need is the other way around.
Well, no, you need to
I've
put
got
them in
one.
that so you can find it.
I've got one of those at home, but things don't tend to work very well after I've used it.
As I called a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, lump hammer, but
Yes.
so I don't know whether any questions. I suppose there will be on the Pi 2 really.
PiFi, is that,
Yeah.
what's the price on that from our contract?
I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm staying.
It's doing well clear.
Yeah. I've just written the software,
Yes.
so it's from my point of view, it's not a money exercise. I'm not getting any money from it. It's just purely from it's useful. I like to be kept away from end users. So he just handles all.
When Andrew mentioned this at the show, he did mention the price there. And I can't remember what it was, but I remember thinking it was very reasonable considering.
I thought it was
the
2025.
itself and-
I thought it was something like 2025.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
because I know I think he generally bundles it with the SD card and
Right.
an adapter.
Yes.
So the idea is you can just plug those
Yeah.
two together. So my preference would be for the Pi 2. The other benefit of the Pi 2, I believe, is the USB is a bit more stable. Because I had problems with the Pi, with connecting various bits and bobs up. I mean, initially that was the power supply. Well, I found I could only plug a keyboard in, and if I plugged the mouse in, nothing else would work.
That's a pretty rubbish price, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I learned fairly quickly about my mistakes. It's like, well, you need to have a reasonable power supply to it, and what some places qualify as a decent power supply, you found isn't. So if you're getting a Pi, it's well worth. If you can't be bothered, I just got an official Pi one. So at least it's been tested to work, and I think the main important thing is a stable supply rather than the amount of power it outputs. Because I've had some 2 amp power supplies which are supposed to be overkill, that just can't keep it sustained. So you plug something in, and if it draws power, problems begin, pain ensues, and they're fairly cheap anyway. So I'll now move on to one of the other things that I'm vaguely interested in is using the Pi, or something like the Pi, for a desktop. Not for me, because I'm a big RISC OS fan, but for my wife and kids, because at the moment they're using, now they're using Windows on an Intel machine, and it's fairly expensive, and the hardware changes quite rapidly, and it's quite expensive to keep it going. So if you could get something like a Raspberry Pi, in total you're probably looking at about £100 for all the caboodle to go with it. But still, that's quite considerable amount cheaper than buying a PC. I was speccing one up for my father-in-law for video editing, and I quickly got up to £800, and that wasn't really top of the line either. So, and that's not booting very well.
Anything on the monitor screen?
No, but it looks like it should be booting. There's a red and green LED on it, which I think means it should be booting.
Still not on the monitor.
That'll be frustrating because I spent quite a long time prepping this card and going through all the various options for it.
Yeah. Such a PCR
That's definitely
you
brutal.
can take a couple of minutes. Just if you,
Probably the problem with the micro SD cards is I've not exactly got small hands. And I do tend to cut my nails as well, so that makes it even more problematic on making sure it's clicked in. So this is, I wasn't expecting it to be this, but there we go. There were two I wanted to show. This is one of them. That's fine. So this is Raspbian. Normally it would boot into just into a text shell, but I've configured it just to boot into a graphical interface. That's what I need. Is if I plug the Wi-Fi in, because that will be something to. I don't know whether anyone watches the real forums, but apparently cute kittens are important. Again, this uses Network Manager, which is what the PiFi uses, but that's got a show password, which makes life easier, which is something I should definitely have. But I don't know whether anyone remembers booting the Raspberry Pi 1. It was very slow and quite sluggish. So as far as running Linux on the Raspberry Pi, it's a considerable improvement. I mean, it's miles faster. It's quite nice. But it's still, as I say, it's still fairly slow. So you can see, we load up the BBC homepage. Now that's not the speed of the internet here. It's just slow. You can see the progress there, the progress bar moving along. It does load, and once it loads up, it's reasonable. But it does take a while. Obviously, one of the things you can't do is assume this will have some really interesting information about the election that we're all dying to hear. Well, surely you're going to be staying in all night tomorrow night to watch it and watch all the interesting updates as they come in.
He's voting because they're all
What I was trying to show, which I really haven't got the patience to, is it doesn't work. It doesn't have flash on it, so you can't. Most of the videos on the BBC website at the moment don't work. Apparently they will work. They're looking at changing that, which is anything that gets rid of flash. I always think is a good thing. But if we go to there we go, there's a YouTube video, which I didn't actually have time to watch, unfortunately, which I need to, because I managed to miss all the talks at the show. So it whinges about device support, but you can see there's a play button there, and once it kicks off, you can watch things on YouTube on the Pi. So and that plays it. That's fairly reasonable. If you go to full screen, it's a little bit
Jerky.
but it recovers after a couple of seconds, I think.
If you put the sound on and watch it long enough, you'll find out how much the Wi-Fi is.
So that, at least it works. So if you want to watch cute cats on YouTube, then you can do. but it's not exactly, that's not exactly rapid, and it's what else have we got in here? Then the next one will be email, but I'll show you that in a second. You see the interface here looks a bit old and dated, but it's not bad. And we can actually run this is a little system monitor. I'm not sure if I could change the resolution on this. I can't be bothered, to be honest, working it out. But ironically, one of the best browsers to use on the Pi is NetSurf, because it's fairly quick, and it loads things up far quicker than using what's it called, Epiphany, which is that one, which has just been released, but it supports HTML5. And Firefox, strangely on Raspbian is fairly slow, but on Fedora it's reasonably quick. But the other one is it's the other one. The Epiphany is slow on Fedora, quick on Raspbian. I don't know why, but yeah, NetSurf runs quite well. So you can see the CPU usage is reasonably low. So that's Raspbian. So it's almost usable as a desktop. As I say, the main problems I would say is that the browser isn't quite quick enough for it not to be irritating. But it's definitely getting there, which is the important thing. And for the amount of money you pay for a Raspberry Pi, I think you can knock it. Hopefully this will be the right one. It's the only one that's not labelled, so.
It must be that one.
And hopefully I've clicked it in properly.
Even if it's true they invented micro SD cards because we're worried about the extreme shipping costs of one size SD one. You tend to read in
So what have you done with it?
If that doesn't pick up, that'd be quite irritating. I'm gonna have to get my phone out.
Is that coming up on the monitor yet?
Yeah, it's on the monitor.
It might sort itself because they quite often go through a lot of wacko resolutions
right, okay.
first. Yeah.
Because I've fixed the resolution on this one to a resolution I thought should be okay for the projector.
It's thinking, trembling.
Might wait until it gets to the desktop with that one. But sometimes this projector latches onto something that's rubbish, which is what that is. So in fact, if we swap the inputs, it might sort itself out. Have you got something sensible on the end monitor?
Yeah, it might be the widescreen, might be a...
Go through all these. See if it sorts itself out. Was it on 1? 3.
Yes,
No, I was going to say that's not the resolution. It's 2 seconds. I can quickly fix that. A lot of the settings for the Raspberry Pi are configured in the boot partition. There's a file called config.txt. And you can hard code things like the screen resolution. The reason I did it for this was obviously because I wanted to put it on the monitor and the projector, and I knew my monitor can go far higher than the projector could handle. So that's my sort of variable I'm playing with is called HDMI mode, which specifies the resolution. I've just thought of an easier way to do it. Now I think about it, if I take that out and let it auto detect, if I'll switch it off and then disconnect my monitor first. Plug it directly into the projector. Hopefully it will pick up a resolution that the projector will like. That's better. I'll just let that boot up. So this is Fedora. It's not available. Well, the version that's on the Raspberry Pi website won't work on the Raspberry Pi 2. It's quite an old. The version on the website is, I believe, Fedora 19. The one for the Pi 2 is 21, so it's actually the latest release, which is quite good because now Fedora are actually treating ARM as a primary platform. So they develop Intel and ARM as the two primary platforms, which is kind of nice. Right, that goes into. If I get it the right way around and don't blow my Pi out. And hopefully that will come back on both. That's one more thing. There we go. So we'll just.
So where did you get this version from? Is it one you've sort of made a build of yourself?
There's a Fedora mailing list, which I've been following for, I don't know, quite a long time. And there was a guy who put it together. There were two versions. There was one version which was just purely Fedora, which you had to hack together. It seemed quite painful. So you had to create your own boot files, get your own firmware. So I thought I'd do a bit more digging before I bothered. And the guy produced a whole lot of disk image. Yeah. So just like the other ones, you can just whack it onto the disk. It wasn't exactly easy to find, but it's so there we go. We got. I thought it was going to auto connect. I thought that would be a miracle. So this, you can see this desktop is a little bit nicer than the one on Raspberry, and this is called Mate. There's a few desktops available for the Pi. There's KDE, Cinnamon, and a couple of others. The really cut down ones. Unfortunately, KDE and Cinnamon look really nice, but they require hardware acceleration. And I did try them, and there is a software acceleration mode, but the Pi effectively jams. There's no way of using it usably. It takes like 5-10 minutes just to open a window for Cinnamon. KDE's quite a lot better, but there is a bit of screen distortions. The graphics are, the colouring, it looks like you try to display a 32-bit graphic in an 8-bit colour on some of the things. Most of it's okay, but But Cinnamon, I mean not Cinnamon, Mate is works really well. I think Mate was developed for Linux Mint originally, I believe, and Cinnamon as well. Cinnamon was developed because GNOME 3 was just horrible, and no one wanted to use it. So they wrote a much nicer front end that's more familiar. So on here, I've loaded a couple of things once this actually loads the images off the SD card. We've got Clause Mail, which is a very lightweight mail client. I used it years ago, largely because at the time I was probably having approximately about 10,000 emails a day. So obviously trying to use Outlook for that was kind of comical. It just wouldn't handle it, and Clause just chewed it up and it was fantastic. I couldn't believe it. But you can see that's fairly quick. It does support HTML if you can find some dodgy email. There we go. Holiday starting at Thompson. So it does render HTML emails. You can't send HTML emails, but that's a good thing. You can see it runs. You know, it runs pretty quickly. So that's quite usable as an email client. There's no problems there. So that's kind of nice. So I've not actually tried sending an email, but you can see it's very responsive. Works quite well. And then obviously the other things are LibreOffice, which is the equivalent of Word. Again, it runs fine. Not too much of a problem. You know, it's not as rapid as running it on like a quad-core Intel machine, running off an SSD machine, but the price difference is significantly. So you know, you can see it's fairly responsive. And then obviously you've got the same for Impress, which is for PowerPoint, and then Calc, which is kind of Excel. And then the other one is obviously we've got web browsing, and this is what I was saying. This is it's Epiphany, but it seems to run slower on Pydora than it does on Raspbian. But the other one is Firefox, which you can see there the CPU's getting some hammer all for the CPUs. But I think over the previous Pi, doing things like that would be
Slow.
Comical. And certainly running two web. I mean, running Firefox alone on the Pi 1 was, I mean, that's why I started using RISC OS again, because I got a Pi, fired it up, and then switched it off. And then I found that RISC OS came for the Pi, which was. But it runs at a reasonable rate. But again, the web browsing, again, I would recommend using for general web browsing using that's not installed, using NetSurf. So I'll just install NetSurf in the background. But I quite like the GK realm, that shows you the CPU usage. But one of the quite disappointing things about the Pi and the Pi 2 is it's got this really heavy GPU, but there's no graphics acceleration at all. There's no NetSurf available. Whilst it'll do, you can do like video. You can see you can do video reasonably well. Because there's no graphics acceleration, the more advanced desktops just won't work because there's no what's it called, OpenGL drivers, so it's all done in software. So there you go. That's the Pi 2 and Arnie pumping iron. So don't know whether anyone's got any questions. That's me finished.
No, I didn't know you could get Fedora on Pi 2.
It was only
Now we know.
it was when I was looking at PiFi, because the command line interface on Raspbian was quite old. I knew Fedora had a newer one, and I tried to install the one from the Raspberry Pi website, and it just went. And it's still only available for the Pi 1. But if you're interested, I can get you the link for that. Because it runs, Fedora runs, it's quite nice.
It does, doesn't it?
I'm a Red Hat person, so rather than Debian, so I'm much more at home with Fedora than Raspbian. There we go. And now I'm going to escape.
To do the tricks with the sticky and finger.
Yeah.
Look, blood.
Oh.
Things you have to do for this club.
I know. Right.
Can you hear me, Mother? No, we're not turned on yet.
Oh, just turn it down. Yeah, try that.
Hello. Hello. Hello, people. Long time no see. Right. Where are we? Oh, you're going to like this. Not a lot, but you like it. Excuse me. Let's see if this works. How many people use Fade? You know, little presentation software.
Me?
You use it.
Yes.
We noticed a very interesting little, we found a nice little bug.
We did, didn't we? Yes. Yeah.
Apart from the fact it has some interesting graphics and pictures when you're actually running the presentation. We also noticed that when it gets to the end of the slide, before it goes on to the next slide, if, as in my case, I had the MP3 player playing some music in the background, the track stopped and it didn't go on to the next one until you quit Fade, and then the music would carry on. I don't know why. It just did. It definitely.
Yes, it was, yeah. Every time, yeah.
Completely repeatable. So there's a little bit of a bug there. Anyway, this should be interesting. Yay! It works! Yeah, he's quite nippy as well. 29 quid is Raspberry Pi 2, in case anybody hasn't bought one. That's how it comes. Doesn't come with anything other than in a box from RS Components.
You get a little book. Get a little book.
Oh, you get a little book.
A little book, yeah.
A little booklet. Yeah, it's too small to read. You spend the next 20 minutes.
That's right, yeah.
So, going around this, you've got 4 USB sockets as opposed to 2, which is on the Pi 1, which is... The mouse has just died. How very strange. Bear with me. Stay safe. The mouse is locked up.
That's the book.
All right. It's as big as the Raspberry Pi itself.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It's thick. Yes, it's just... Well,
It's the smoke.
Bloody computers, eh?
Exactly. Can't trust them.
It's a Dell mouse, isn't it? Good quality. It's fresh out of my stock cover this evening with my getting out of it. No, borrowed it out of my
Or
stock
it is, yes. It's in full back somewhere.
It's looking for a
Network.
network at the moment, which it's not going to find. Speaking of network, obviously it's got wired network built in, it doesn't have Wi-Fi, and that's one of the gadgets that I've bought. It's a Volnets gadget, about 16 quid I think on Amazon. So that end goes into your network socket on the Pi. That goes into the USB port, but it's only taking power from there. And so basically it picks up Wi-Fi and converts it into wired.
Oh, okay.
Simple as that. The pain in the bum with it is you need to set it up using a PC first. And as if to really rub it in, rub the salt in, it needs to be a Windows XP PC. So apparently the software doesn't run on Windows 7 or 8. As it happens, I've got access to several Windows XP machines, but 16 quid, you know. And it does work very well. In fact, I use one with my Freeview hard drive recorder at home, so it saved me having to run a cable right the way down across the living room. So it works. 16 quid. Anyway, yay! We've got that again. Try again. No, dear. Right.
Are we on 1280, Ruth?
No. Whinge.
You should still pick it back and see it now. Hey.
Right. Yay! Right, 29 quid. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Can you just check my bag over, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me being really organised. Really very kindly.
Where do you keep the kitchen
SD
sink?
cards in the bottom.
Not quite. Not quite. You'll like this.
I was going to mention the point that Ruth's cased hers in Lego, which you can have a look at later.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. I've not told them everything. There are other things to go.
Is that true? Is that true?
Can you tell us what you're looking for, Ruth?
Yeah, it's not there.
It's not there.
No, it's not there. It's not there. Anywho, right, so 4 USB sockets instead of 2, which is very useful, because as Malcolm said before, by the time you've plugged in your mouse and keyboard, that's it, you're stuffed. Network socket, HDMI output, power socket, and then a couple of little dedicated widgets so that you can plug things like a dedicated display screen in, or a camera. There's a camera available for about 20 quid, I think,
Yep.
something like that. And then all that row of pins along the top are accessible from BASIC, so in theory you should be able to turn all those pins on and off and do wonderful things like control lights or operate your central heating system or various other things, things that nobody's invented yet. The downside of that, nice little board, but when I looked at it I thought, I know I'm going to put that down on something that's metallic and while it's running, and there's all bits of solder on the underside, so it's going to go zap. So I thought, first thing I want to do is put some Lego blocks on it so that it's always going to be raised up. So that's what I did. And that's it looking from the top with 4 little Lego blocks keeping it off the floor. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to put that on, I might as well fit it into the Lego. So it seems absolutely reasonable.
Are you admitting you still had your Lego kit from Charlotte?
Yes, I'm not ashamed of it at all. It's older than, well, no, it's not older than me, but actually some of it is, because some of it was my brother's. Now the only additional thing is The Raspberry Pi doesn't have an RTC, it doesn't have a clock built into it. So, which is fine when it's online, because it gets a time server from somewhere or other, so it always knows what time it is. But in any event where it's not online, it gets the time and date wrong because it hasn't got a clue where to get it from. RTC module, £9 from CJE Micros. We have them in stock, as they say.
But it timestamps your files, basically, doesn't it?
Well,
If you're running standard work.
well, yeah, all sorts of things will
Yeah.
timestamp files,
Yeah.
aren't they? So you need them to be stamped at the correct time,
Yeah.
which is not good, which is good. So yes, I just built it up into a nice little Lego case, and here it is, and you're welcome to come and have a nosy at it. It's got a little. I was told that computers need drivers, so I built a little driver.
Is it a Windows driver?
Never worked now.
Wash your mouth.
Yeah, well, she might have, yeah.
But so I mean, having built it into that, it works really nice. I've had to do a bit of hackery to make spaces between bricks and slightly modify the edges of bricks and things to allow various plugs and things to go in. But yeah, it's not too bad. I've probably spent as much on additional little bits of Lego, like the glass windows at the one end, so I can see the LED stuff.
I said it's Windows then.
So what I like about it so far, as you can see, it is running. It's actually running RISC OS 5 point something or other.
1.8.
1.8, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty quick. Certainly quicker than my RISC PC. A lot quicker. I'm just unbelievable. USB. I was really impressed when I first fired it up and found out that I plugged a USB memory stick in and it just said hello. It just worked. I was really impressed with that. Networking system is fine, apart from the fact that it doesn't understand Wi-Fi, so you have to go through something like that, which is a minor drawback. There's nothing really to worry about. It's extremely portable. I mean, I've built a flight case for moving mine around. Of course, I've got access to lovely BASIC again, which is great, and it's cheap, 29 quid. 29 quid. You've got a working computer for 29 quid. What's not brilliant, as I said, no real-time clock, so normally if it's unplugged, powered down, you power it back up again, you've lost the time and date, which can be a pain in the butt. Doesn't understand USB Wi-Fi, that's not a great issue. Screen modes and monitor compatibility, that's an oddity. I'm not quite sure what the issues are. The monitor I've got working with it here is capable of 1920 by 1080 and probably above, and that's what it works at by default, so that's fine. When I was first powering it up, I was trying to get it to work with a couple of spare monitors that I had kicking around that could probably do like 1024 by 768 or something like that, and they just didn't want to know. Whichever mode I put the Raspberry Pi into, it just didn't want to know at all. So what's going on there, I don't know, whether it's just it needs monitor definition files doing or something. So it's just something to watch out for. As we've said before, as Malcolm said, old apps, a lot of them try to work and then fall over, and a lot of them just won't even load at all. So you do have to go hunting. You have to kiss a lot of frogs, as they say, and then eventually you find the prince. And the SD image that you download from Rule, or if you buy a micro SD card with the image already on, the RISC OS side of it is only 2 gigabytes, which is quite intriguing. I asked about that, and it was apparently down to the amount of time it takes to create a larger image on an SD card, apparently. So, it is, oh, we'll come out of that now. So it is, if I go and have a quick look down there, there's a hard drive, and if I do, oops, free. So it says that it's just short of 2 gigabytes, but this is a 16 gigabyte memory card in there.
So you get systems disk,
System disk.
then you can, I think, go as big as you want to on that SD card.
Apparently, yeah.
Well,
There's
it's just 10 quid.
That's right. It's actually on there. I've put it on. I think it's in utilities. There you go. Oops,
Yeah.
piece of software called System Disk.
Make sure you choose the right desk when you're doing it.
Yes, yes. I won't say whether I've fallen foul or not. I won't say whether I've fallen foul of that or not. So apparently that's what you can do. I tried it this afternoon. I put another memory card in via a USB adapter. There you go, a USB adapter, micro SD card in the side, that goes in there. So that allowed me to format a micro SD card in, what do they call it, file format, RISC OS format. And then copy on all the files. So thinking I had then got a clone of the disk that I had been using, took the old SD card out, put the new SD card in, booted it up, and then everything starts complaining because the card isn't the same name as the previous card. So I fiddled around for a bit, renamed the drive. I got it to boot quite reliably, and then other strange things started happening, like drawer kept crashing for every time I was modifying the drawer file, hit the menu button, and then it would just throw up a little error message and bomb out. So
one of the things you have to be careful with the Pi, as I found out to my annoyance, when I was prepping the PiFi stuff, I needed another SD card. So there's this like super fast SD card, really quick SanDisk. It was I only needed 8 gig, so it was about the same price as the other. So I thought, well, I'll get that. It'll be really, get the best speed out of it. And this was on Linux, so it'll be the same on RISC OS. I ended up getting file system corruptions. So you need to be.
I think I read something about that somewhere.
I've not got a clue why, because it's like 2 SanDisk cards. One's like an Extreme Pro.
Well, the one I've got in is it's a class 10, 16 gigabyte, and it's yes, class 10. I did read somewhere that after I bought these, of course, I did read somewhere that somebody was saying use class 6.
No, class 10 are the best to do.
Yeah,
But
that's what I would have
they were
thought.
just because the ones I use are, I think they're 45 megabytes a second. Class 10 is only, I think,
So
rates.
that could have something to do with it. I really don't know.
It's just random cards. I think there's somewhere where it gives you a list of cards that are preferred. I didn't read it.
Is that not a bit worrying? If you think that any card would work, just some would be slower than others, but not
think
even
generally
not working is kind of worrying, really.
Most of them I've found to be okay. I just had experience with just that one.
Yeah.
Just at the time when I was in a desperate hurry to get something done.
Of course.
And it's
Yeah, it
like-
could just be a duff.
And I thought it was the OS that was knackered.
Never let any computer know that you are in a hurry.
That's true.
There is another piece of software available, also from Piccolo Systems. It's actually called Clone Disk or something along those lines, and it's available as part of the NutPi package, which I have ordered and it hasn't arrived yet, so I can't show it. So in theory that should allow me to just make an exact clone and hopefully expand the...
You can't expand it. Clone disk just makes an exact copy.
It's an exact copy, it's not, it doesn't, don't know about that then. I'll have to have another play when I get more time.
Well, system disk is really good.
Yeah, well, so it did work.
Once you get used to it, once you get used to doing it But that's the problem that I always have when you use it. You change the hard disk name if you have any references.
Yeah, I mean, it could perhaps just do with a few more instructions, you know, don't forget to rename it.
I've done a tutorial on it.
Ah, how he tells me. Now he tells me. So, so that's worth looking. I think that was, what was it, £12 from
I did that for
Bigelow Systems or something.
about a year ago.
So, Pi tests, here we are. So we thought we'd have a look at some, just exactly how fast it is. Bit of basic, telling it to go through a loop 100 million times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. That's not too bad, is it?
No.
For a moment then I thought you were going to count up to 100 million.
You might have to edit that video.
Put it on fast forward. So let's have a look. These things that that Peter sent.
I think that's about the slowest one. So let's see how quick we're at. As you can see, the last bit of hair on the right hand side, I think. That's about 4 or 5 seconds, isn't it? Did you
Yeah.
give me some time?
It did. I think I made notes. Not that one. Aha, there you go. That one that we've just loaded, Vicky. Apparently 28 seconds on a strong arm piece, RISC PC, 7 seconds on an A9, and on this it did it in 9 seconds. One called Transwarp, which is let's have a look. 30 seconds on a RISC PC. It says here, 9 seconds on an A9. Wait for the clock to get up to the second hand to get to the 12. So 7 seconds.
Yeah.
That's not too bad, is it? I think I timed it at 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so it's faster than an A9
Yes. Yeah.
in a nutshell. Is an A9 a virtual machine?
No, A9's real hardware, I think.
So
The
real
last
hardware.
blue box thing, if you remember, it came in a vanity case.
That one.
That one, yes.
Just you to got the weird one.
Of course, yeah.
And some very large JPEGs.
Large to me.
Well, yeah, I found some bigger ones,
Oh, of course.
like you do. Have we got any electricians in here? Or people who know a bit about electrics?
Yes.
Yes.
This should be interesting.
It's important.
Yeah, a bit of wiring.
Oh, good grief.
Okay.
That's shocking, isn't it?
Which part of the world would that come from?
I'm guessing India.
Well, I'm thinking India or possibly
Vietnam.
Thailand. Pole, yeah.
What the hell
Each
are
one
they?
of these
Oh,
is
right.
actually a meter.
Really?
So for every little shop or residence down below, it's in Manila. Yeah.
Manila.
Every single one of those is a meter that's feeding a supply to a shop or a residence.
Colour wire?
Bradford.
It's quite horrifying, isn't it? It's quite horrifying.
That's a two-man job.
I can remember walking under wires somewhere in Thailand and feeling crackling on a dry, bright day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few
Thailand
experiments
is
which
visiting
are
on a wet day.
Yes.
Low voltage stuff on
Outside.
a dry day.
Oh. In the street.
Good.
Yeah. You just got a fluorescent lighting tube, just paint your tongue
Yeah.
So that is 5,184 by 3,456 pixels.
Very quick.
So that's live withable, I reckon. That's Manila again. Very colourful place. I wouldn't want to live there.
Too many guns.
Sorry?
Too many guns.
Indeed, yes, and one of them owned by an idiot that I know.
Asia especially.
Can you,
Yes, he ended up spending a
can you
fortnight in jail.
zoom in on one of the, well, let's say the hoardings or something like that?
Just go to pixel by pixel.
I just wondered how, considering the size of it, you think, yeah, it's still quite clear, isn't it, really, that? It would be, wouldn't it, those pixels?
Yeah.
Mm.
That's its normal, what do you call it, natural size. Pixel by pixel.
The wiring gets no better.
It's surprising, that's actually not bad. My friend did tell me that he'd seen, they were out walking one evening and there was a cable hanging down, and every time it had broken obviously, and every time it brushed by the pavement it was sparking. And it had just been raining, so they did a hasty retreat. As you do.
I remember when we went in Egypt, they got fluorescent lighting outside.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
tend to be vertically, you know, just under
Capture
control
rain
or
better,
whatever.
Yeah.
So it obviously never rained there because
No.
one spot of rain and it's enough to cut it out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's one of Peter's pictures.
Grief.
Very
Great.
good. So
On the way to Beverley.
speed-wise, I think it's absolutely fine. I mean, you know.
Again, I think I want something like 20 seconds on a wrist piece.
Snow scene. Let's have a quick look. 11 seconds on the RISC PC.
Oh, right.
1 second on an A9. Ooh,
Mm.
being swimmish. About 3 seconds. So
The main problem with the Pi is it's the CPU is way faster than the M9, but you've got the SD card,
There's a slowing down bit.
which which will always kill any CPU.
right.
So which is why I'm using Pi or and as well I tend to try and rely on the RAM disk
Right.
All right.
or Memphis, which is very handy.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Speed-wise, I'm very happy with it.
And what's on the Nut Pi? Oh, you've not got it yet. What else is on the Nut Pi?
Shed loads of stuff.
It is. It's everything.
I think
There's
it's
messengers on there.
It's 45 quid and well, the last retail prices that were all that.
I think
When they came out, it's sort of like 200 quid.
I think the C compiler's on there as well, isn't
There's,
it?
there's programming,
yeah,
general
DD,
stuff, yeah.
Which is really good value.
But it only refers to one SD card. So if you keep changing your image all the time, it will, like you keep swapping your SD card, they'll just have a slightly different version of Pi.
Yeah.
NumPy relates to one SD card, apparently.
Because I thought it was coded to check the hardware.
Interesting.
Some of the applications are just coded to run on it would run on any Pi. I don't know about all of them.
Yeah.
But
There is a caveat on the website that says it will only run on RISC OS, on Pi 2. Yeah,
Pi 2.
Pi 2.
Right. Yeah, I've got the older version. I don't think I had a problem changing SD card.
So networking works fine.
I'll put all of the stuff separately.
And as Nelson would say, ha ha. So yeah, networking works fine. One thing I was going to do today but couldn't get around to it because I had to do some work was to get it talking to my trusty old RISC PC. And then hopefully try and transfer lots of stuff across, see exactly what would work and what wouldn't. Didn't get a chance to do that, but there's utilities, and oops. So there's all the applications that are on here. So these are all the ones that I've tested and know to work. I like that, caution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very wise. Bubble help. I love bubble help. It does what it does. All of this lot works. Digital CD, plays music. Needs to be the very latest version because the version I had before kept bombing out. Direct, I remember that from years back. It does all this sort of wonderful stuff, doesn't it? Yeah.
I've never worked out what it actually does. I know it looks cool.
It's just another way of finding things. Basically. Excuse me. I was looking at things like converting draw files to sprites. I ended up not needing it, which is good. There's something here which is, there you go, you see, these damn things that need network connections.
Yes.
You know? Two lovely little apps there. Weather UK, News UK, find out what's going on, find out whether it's going to be over the barbecue weekend or not. Yay! They work very nicely, by the way.
They depress you quite a lot, especially at the moment.
Yeah.
Sorry?
The weather one depresses me a lot at the moment.
Well, you know. But
I was actually used it this weekend for exactly that purpose.
Yes.
Can we have a barbecue?
No.
It's about, I should have just known, it's a bank holiday weekend.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
they are very good, very nice little apps.
Thank you.
So yeah, I've just got to play with things like getting Omni client up and running, or various other networking things to get it to talk to the RISC PC and
You don't have to.
Sorry?
It does it anyway, you don't have to do it. Just enable it and it does it.
Access. Through access.
Yeah. Just enable it in the network settings.
Yeah, I could try that.
And it does it.
The last time I tried to get my RISC PC to talk to, I was trying to get it to talk to RISC OS 4 point something or other in virtual RISC PC, and that was a nightmare. So I hope it's going to be a lot easier to do it with this. StrongEd, of course, everybody loves StrongEd. I actually prefer it. I know.
No, Zap's far superior.
Everything.
Don't start that.
Flak jackets on.
Bad enough with the election without that.
All the work I did for my HMD that I did about 10 years ago was basically done using Zap. So I absolutely love it. Brilliant. Pluto, the email client Pluto has been made open source and free. The only trouble is I can't get it to actually do anything. Apparently you need a transport with it as well. Does anybody know?
Transport
Who's
module.
Anyone?
Yeah. I seem to have seen that somewhere.
Yeah, but only in nuts.
Well, if it's on the NutPy you get Messenger Pro, but on the
Yeah,
Messenger,
that's one of the reasons that.
with Pluto you need something to actually get the emails.
Right. A
Yeah.
fetcher, is it? Fetcher
That's,
module or something?
Which, from what
I
I've
don't know.
seen,
I
things
couldn't- I
like
gave up.
Popstar
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
there was another one.
Popstar is the
The one I used to use, but it looks like it's not been 32-bitted.
No.
I think Popstar should be
You
okay.
think so?
Yeah, because I did have a look at it, but then I realised I can't use POP, I have to use IMAP, so it's kind of...
Indeed. So, what I like about this running RISC OS on a Raspberry Pi is that it's absolutely, it's just so cheap. 29 quid, so it's got 30 quid, 5 for a half decent power supply, bit of Lego to put it in, or a plastic box of some description.
Custom driver.
Sorry?
A custom driver.
A custom driver, yeah. And an SD card. So, what, 40 quid?
Yeah.
And you've got a system up and running.
Yeah.
That's got to encourage people to start experimenting with it and hopefully looking at it and writing new apps. You never know, it could kickstart the whole RISC OS thing again. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. So, any questions? Anyone want to come and have a play with Lego Comp?
I want to see you drive, I think.
Sorry?
I want to see you driver.
You're not going to make a server out of it, you're not going to get up a whole bunch like Southampton University did and make a whole load.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, the server will be some kind of waiter or something on the top, wouldn't it?
Yes.
A tray.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the nice things are things like Pipe Dream.
But Pipe Dream's good
yeah.
as well now.
Yeah, 'cause when I was a kid, so I thought I'd throw that
It's
in
as
again.
bad as during the war.
Yeah, Pipe Dream was something you'd never ever be able to buy or
No.
so it's nice to be able to use that. As you say, it's free. There's also Ovation as well. You can for editing. I think it does Word documents.
Ovation does.
Ovation, yeah.
Only does.
That's the demo version.
so.
Oh, that's
The
the
decorators does, but
right.
That's Ovation Pro
Oh
demo
no, I'm thinking
version.
Excel. Maybe it does. Ovation does Excel possibly.
Oh, I'd be surprised.
I know Ovation Pro. I know does.
Really?
Some
Oh,
Excel.
right.
Doesn't do what if you have complex documents.
Right.
It doesn't handle them too well, but it does basic Excel documents.
Yeah. Depends if you want to see
Not
what
XLS.
view it.
Not the X ones. It's just the normal Excel.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because of course there's view XLS if you just want to view rather than play around with.
Oh, yeah, fireworks. That's what I was thinking. Fireworks.
Fireworks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an odd one. It's not as really sort of obvious to use. Yeah, you can do all the usual stuff, I suppose.
But for free, you can't knock it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you're up and running with an office suite. You can do spreadsheets, you can do word processing. I think between the two, you can do mail merging as well, which is pretty handy.
Yeah.
So yeah. Ooh. Go away. So, as I say, for 40 quid, you can be up and running with a basic system. I'm well impressed.
Of course, you can use it as an MP3 player and stuff like that, can't you?
If you really want to, you
Yeah.
can use it as an MP3
It's
player.
colour in that it's very similar to what in the beginning.
Can't really sound on that one, it's not terribly captioned.
And then you're at the family tree.
That might be.
Yeah.
But it's just, what's the actual player that you use?
I want to print it
It's,
all out.
That, it's
Digital CD.
digital CD, yeah. But I say it has to be the latest one, but then it has to have the latest modules. Then it will
Into
work. So, well, it sat there and played all that background music
Oh,
in
yeah.
Chill Theatre, so it's absolutely fine.
Line.
So,
Just have to put the lines in.
questions? Come and have a play?
Right.
Call it a day at that.
Fine.
Yes, okay, thank you.
ROC, helping you with Acorn and RISC OS computing.